For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise, and you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here on The Scribble. You know, this week it's all about relationships. Now that I kind of look at the rundown of topics, now I'm going to, and we're going to really go all over the map with them. Let me just tell you that. Now, it's been about a year since my dog died, and yes, it was devastating in the weeks and months that followed, but I guess I'm sort of feeling guilty that I don't have more memories of him. I'll tell you about what I mean in the first segment after the break, and then that's going to segue into a discussion about friendships and how you could have somebody, you know, a friend or just a person in your life for a very, very long time, and suddenly you just gradually lose touch, right? You just kind of stop connecting with them. I've had that in previous, workplaces at different jobs where you stay in touch with, with your friends, and then you kind of go through your phone and go, oh shit, it's been months, I haven't heard from so-and-so. Why did we stop talking? Did something happen? Or, what's that about? And it just kind of makes you think about, why those happen. Why those situations happen. And then later an Ask JB segment, also about relationships, when you see a friend's partner on a dating app. Awkward. It all starts on The Scribble right after this.
Who are the Kardashians feuding with now? What did that little thug Justin Bieber do this time? Who's getting hitched? And who's headed for Splitsville? Hear the latest celebrity news and gossip every day on Entertainment Wrap-Up. The good, the bad, the ugly, but mostly the ridiculously hilarious. It's all recapped in this daily segment at entertainmentwrapup.com. Have a laugh at the expense of the rich and famous when they take themselves way too seriously. It's 3 minutes of time-wasting fun at entertainmentwrapup.com. Check out Entertainment Wrap-Up at entertainmentwrapup.com. Brought to you by Speak Free Books.
Jeremy Bradley here on The Scribble. It was a year ago that my dog died. Now, he had died, and I didn't announce anything publicly for, it was about 2 months, I think. See, the deal with my dogs, Ernie and Basil, was that we had them, they were characters on my syndicated radio shows. And so they were in, costumes, they did photo shoots, they were kind of a big presence. I think, they were on the show website for, Basil was 9, Ernie's 13 and a half. So they, they were around for quite a while. The celebrities knew them. And so we kind of, mostly me, but we as a group sort of debated, how do we address this on the radio show? Because, it's not just like a Facebook post. Oh, you've seen them, right? Oh, I'm sorry, we had to put our, we lost our baby today or whatever it is. And then there's nothing wrong with doing something like that. But again, this is just sort of like a platform where, again, if it was just where, okay, well, Jeremy has these dogs, they were included, right? They were part of the show. I guess think about like a TV show, that has a dog or had a pet on it, right? You kind of have to mention what happened to them. If it's a TV show, you sort of, write it out of the story, but this is, anyway. So that has nothing to do with the story, as I'm just giving you some background. Let me get back on track here. Now, obviously, we didn't have the dog put down. He died. He had a blood disease, and he died on our living room floor, basically right in front of us. And like I said, I have a golden retriever as well, so I had something to fall back on, right, in terms of comfort and consoling, a husband as well. But I don't want to say you've got a fallback pet, but in a way you kind of do, right? It's totally different if you're coming home to an empty house that's quiet and silent and you don't have that barking or that wagging tail anymore. I still had that when I came home. So I don't know, and this is where I want to know your thoughts if you've had a dog die. It's not about having him put down or what, like, it's just if you've had a dog die. how long was the mourning process? Because, and this is where I sort of feel like a jerk, is that absolutely I mourned him for, a long time. Every area of the house had a memory, right? Every time I would, when I would have a bath, both dogs had a different spot where they laid. When we were watching TV on the couch, he always laid, alongside me on the couch. On the bed, when we would go to bed at night, he laid in the same spot, and we all had our positions on the bed. And memories of the 9 years that I had with him kind of started to fade. Now, when I look back at pictures and videos, because again, we've got a shit ton of those from the years, but my mom was walking. We've got 2 dogs now, right? We've got a golden retriever and a husky. My mom came and walked with us the other day, and she was comparing my puppy to the way Basil would, walk or play at the park and things like that. And then she would ask me these questions about how Basil was. And I kind of felt stupid. I made up answers, but I felt stupid because I didn't remember those things. And so I wasn't sure if this is a sign that he's a forgotten about thing. He's dead. Quite literally, he's dead to me, right? And it's hard because right now I'm looking on my desk here. There's a picture of Ernie and Basil staring at me. There's another one of Basil wearing sunglasses. Oh my God, I've got about 5 pictures of Basil. 5 pictures of Basil staring at me right now as I'm talking to you. And I remember each of these moments. I do. Now that I look at the pictures, I remember all of them. But I guess there's just certain character traits or personality traits that I don't remember. And it just seems so weird that after 9 years in my life that I don't remember some of those things. So did this happen with you when you lost your pet, when your pet was gone and no longer around? Like I said, you have the memories of their spot on the couch and things like that because that was every day you saw that. But then even just when it came to their behavioral things, or my mom would ask me, well, did he ever such and such? Or was there ever a time when? And I would sit there going, I don't know. And I guess why I couldn't come up with something was because my immediate reaction oh crap, you don't remember this stuff about him. That's maybe where I got distracted. So tell me, send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. You feel like I hate the term fur baby. I hate saying it, but I'll say it because you'll understand what I mean. You cherish your fur baby. You love them. They're such a big part of your life and your family. To me, it just seems disrespectful that I don't remember these things. I mean, I guess the way that you compare it, and then my grandma died of corona, right? Shortly after my dog died. So I guess if you're a non-pet person, so maybe I'll frame it this way. Let's say that your grandma, your family member dies, and then suddenly you're asked to speak at the funeral. And then you sit down and you rack your brain and go, why don't I have as many memories as I thought I would? Right? You knew this person for how long? They were in your life for that long, but it's just not coming to you. You've sort of blocked out the memories, or they've just been forgotten about. Now, I'm not saying this is an issue about memory loss, but what I'm just saying is, how do we just have those pockets of things that we've sort of forgotten about? I liken it. Where's Bonnie Winters? She hates that word. Bonnie Winters hates the word liken, our executive producer. She'd have a shit fit if she heard me say that. But I compare it to when I wrote a book years ago where I just had this emotional dump of feelings that I'd kept bottled up from my childhood. There was something very therapeutic about the words being typed and coming out my fingertips. I know that sounds so weird, but there was just this release. And if you were to ask me what's in that book now, I mean, this was about 10 years ago, I legitimately couldn't tell you half of the stuff that's in it. But yet, this was all stuff in the moment, in that time of my life, that it impacted me, it affected me, it was emotionally crippling. And so it's weird that for so long, right? I mean, some of these feelings that I had about, different family members or situations growing up that were so hard for me, that it was almost instantly that they were put in the book. I got them out in one fashion, right? I didn't have a conversation with somebody. I didn't go to a therapist. My therapy was writing the book, putting it down in words on paper. And it's it's gone. It's gone. So I don't know. How about all of this? Okay, so the dog dying, a grandma dying, writing your thoughts. Send me an email. Lots to cover. live@jbonair.com. live@jbonair.com.
It's never too early to start thinking about your next holiday. Have you checked out Mexico recently? From tequila tasting, swimming with horses, to ziplining through the jungle and watching whales and dolphins in their natural habitat, Puerto Vallarta has it all. Visit mexico.jbonair.com to see all the fun PV has to offer. That's at mexico.jbonair.com for hundreds of photos, interviews, and videos from around the tourist hotspot. Check out mexico.jbonair.com for all the fun. That's mexico.jbonair.com.
Jeremy Bradley here on The Scribble. You know, I talk about friendships and relationships from time to time on this show, and as we get older, and just as we go through different life changes, right? It could be we graduated high school, it could be that we got a new job, it could be that we moved, we started a new relationship, whatever it is. We go through ups and downs in our friendships with people, in our different relationships, right? And oftentimes we just sort of chalk it up to that, right? Well, he started a new job, and oh, well, I moved, and and usually we like to think that social media keeps us in touch with each other, right? But, it doesn't. So how many times have you been either scrolling through, Facebook or Instagram, whatever it is, or even just going through your phone, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, crap, there's a picture of me and so, and I haven't talked to that person in so long. And then it kind of gets your brain going as to be like, well, wait a second, why haven't we talked? What was going on? Why haven't? And again, generally it's because, right, you just have your own life happening, and that's okay, right? There's no problem with that. But what happens when you have a different recollection as to why you haven't been in touch? I'm going to tell you this story here, all right? So sit back and relax, enjoy. I had a friend who, we have a long history with each other, 15 years. And so this isn't one of those, this isn't a Facebook friend, because Facebook didn't exist back then. This is an actual friendship, right? Like, even back when I lived at my parents' house, in the basement there, and he was living across the country, but we still managed to talk all the time. And we were, I would say, best friends. Like, I could give one-word answers and he'd know that something was up. And we just were able to read each other like that. And again, same thing. He would get into a relationship. We wouldn't talk as much. I had started to focus on my radio career at that time, being a newspaper columnist as well. I started to do books and things. So yeah, it's that ebb and flow of a relationship. You kind of lose touch. Then you reconnect, and you pick up like, no time has passed. And so we've always had a very, very up and down relationship, never a problem that it couldn't get worked out, right? There would always be, it might have to be, the silent treatment or me not answering or whatever for him to pull that out of me. But generally, we kind of work things out all the time. So fast forward all these years later, and again, we've had some instances where, he was in a relationship for a long time and then broke up and didn't tell me for about 2 weeks. To me, that was a slap in the face, where it's like, wait a second here. I've been with you through all these different breakups. And again, in 15 years, I don't even know how many relationships he's had. He's had a lot of relationships. And I was always there. I was always the person in the middle of the night. You'd get the phone call. I was being a friend, I guess would be the term. And ditto for me, right? When I had, a terrible book signing, or I just had, some kind of setback in my professional life, he was there. And we relied on each other for that. But over in recent years, we've just lost touch, and I guess I'm not usually easily offended by things. And so last fall, when my grandma was tested positive for corona, and then and just some background is that she was living in a home at the time. So in that regard, she had to be isolated. She had to go into. Remember how the hospitals looked at the very beginning of the whole thing, right? Where, you got plastic all over the walls, and it was just really, really impersonal. There was, nothing comfortable about seeing those scenes. And so that's what happened. She had to be taken out of her unit. She had dementia as well, so this was also really tough. And she didn't know where she was going, where her things are, why isn't anybody coming to see me? It was just really bad. And so I don't like to text people that information, right? Like, it was like when my dog died last year, I phoned people. I wasn't just like, oh, Basil died. I actually called people. And it was hard for me, but I just felt that that's the more personal approach. That's the way to deliver, news like that. And so when she tested positive, we didn't know what was happening at the time, right? We didn't know if she's going to pull through, and quite honestly, she had no symptoms. She, by all accounts, the way she was communicating with the doctors, she had no symptoms and there was nothing bothering her. So we were kind of like, holy crap, is this a miracle? Like, she's going to get through this without even feeling sick at all? She later, 2 weeks later, died from it. So the point of the story was that I had basically kind of just texted people and said, she's tested positive for corona. I don't know what's happening because nobody's allowed to go there. You can only have contact, my mom and my uncle, I think, were really the only people who were hearing from the home. And I would get the odd text picture from my mom because the care home would send pictures to her or my uncle, and then it would be, blasted out on a family, group chat, or my mom would send it to my brothers and me, and we would get the pictures. And, okay, well, she looks happy, right? And so one of the pictures was basically the nurse wearing, full-on frickin' hazmat suit, right? And with a visor and gloves and whatever. And my grandma's sitting there, and they're doing a coloring book, which, I mean, you look at that and go, wow, for a 92-year-old woman, this is kind of pitiful that she's like a child sitting there doing, coloring with this person who looks like they're on Mars, right, in some kind of a spacesuit. And so this friend that I'm referring to made a comment and basically said something about my grandma being in a meth lab or working in a meth lab, or that's her new meth lab. And it just struck me as really, really offensive. Now, crazy thing is that I'm usually the offensive one, right? I'm the one who is making the inappropriate comments at the wrong time, and, I piss people off. But there was just something about that going like, wow, this is a woman who, has no idea what's happening. The family is just kind of lost because nobody could even go and see her or, talk to her, tell her it's going to be okay. And yeah, now again, I totally flip this around and say that is exactly a JB comment. That is something that I would say to either encourage a laugh or to, change the mood. It's not meant to be disrespectful to the person, right? To the grandma. It's not meant to, but I would just say things at the wrong time. I'm kind of, like Joan Rivers or Kathy Griffin, right? When you think about kind of how when you sit there and go, oh my God, did she really just say that? Oh my God, how can you say that? That's so rude. That's so offensive. That's so misplaced. That's ill-timed, whatever. And I guess I would say that maybe if our friendship was 100% at the time, I could have laughed it off. But when your friendship is between like 25 and 40% good, I don't know. It just rubbed me the wrong way. And so I just stopped. I didn't reply to that, and I just cut off contact. Now, I mean, I look at the calendar. I mean, this is, almost a year ago now. And there was one time when he texted me asking if I got a new dog, and I hadn't at the time, so I don't really know where that came from. But again, I just didn't reply to that. Now, then I kind of sit there and go, we kind of did reconnect, and he sees it a completely different way than I did. Now, again, if I'm not hearing from somebody, I would kind of be wanting to know, like, hey, what's up? Are you still around? Like, what's going on? What's new? What's exciting? And the fact that he didn't do that just made it actually, I guess, worse for me. And then the longer it is, right, then just the more it just is going to take to rebuild that, or if you even can or want to. And so I'm just saying that this is so strange where you can have one person be completely bothered and offended and be like, holy God, you're an asshole. Like, seriously. And then the other person have no clue that they've offended you, bothered you, that anything is wrong. And so that's, I guess, my question to you in telling the story is, was somebody in the wrong? Was I in the wrong for not communicating and just saying, hey, you know what? Time and place, buddy. Back off. That was a real dick thing to say. Not cool with this woman who's potentially dying. Is it on him to be like, well, hey, how come I haven't heard from Jeremy in a long time? Like, why he doesn't reply to me? Maybe I could just call him, because that's always been the basis of a relationship. You don't need permission to just call somebody, right? And so I kind of look at that and go, well, he offended me. He doesn't really either seem to understand that. Now, is suddenly he mad at me because I've shut down? Like, it's very bizarre, but neither party has kind of, I mean, aside from him asking if I got a new dog, but neither party has really kind of broached the idea of smoothing things out, ironing it all out, getting it resolved. So what do you make of that in a friendship? Again, over 15 years, and there have been ups and downs before. There have been times of silent treatment. There have been times of, even tears as to, that this was, you've hurt me as a friend or what have you. Or was this just the final straw? Was Corona kind of what sort of tested that relationship, that friendship, and be like, you know what? My grandma was dying. You make a comment like that. Different if it's, another relative. I guess it sort of elevates the status when it's a grandma, right? Or a parent or whatever it is. I mean, people knew that I was fairly close with her. I would go every Wednesday to play bingo at the home. Like, that was nothing new. And so, was it too insensitive? Was I being overly sensitive? Send me an email. I want to know your thoughts on this one. live@jbonair.com. live@jbonair.com. And before you ask, it's not that it just happens that, we've kind of made contact again, and it's kind of back to those one-word answers. And so you kind of hope that the friend is taking those signals and those cues and jumping on that to rebuild it, but he's just not. So is it time to just sort of say goodbye to that friendship? And again, like I said at the very start of the segment, it's okay to grow apart as people, move on with their lives. Or has Corona given you a different appreciation for those relationships and friendships with people? Right? Has this made you kind of reconnect and go, you know what, let's let bygones be bygones. Let's move on. Let's get past this. Let's be grown-ups. Let's talk it through. Could go either way. Send me an email again, live@jbonair.com.
Isn't it crazy that you wait for payday, but before you know it, you're strapped for cash again? It's time to stop blowing your money and become a smart spender with the book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com. Learn simple ways to cut costs at home every day and during special times of the year. Don't go broke at Christmas. Don't remortgage the house for a fancy vacation. The book is filled with tips to save you money throughout the year. Check out the best-selling book, The Official Guide to Being an American Cheapskate at cheapskatebook.com or on Amazon and iTunes.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. One of the features I like doing on this show, we call it Ask JB, but that's not an original name, right? I mean, everybody uses that. But it's basically when a listener emails a question or concern or complaint, I guess, about their life, and I just give my take. Now, remember, I'm not a therapist. I've just lived a bunch of years, right? I've just experienced different things. And I like to, and I think I got a reputation amongst my friends years ago, back when I was, in my early 20s, as being a good advice giver. Now, it's not because I'm saying you should do this, you should do that, because I've always hated that, and I've mentioned that on this show. If somebody says you should do something, I shut down right away, because now you're telling me what to do, and I'll make my own decisions. Thank you very much, Mom. And so I always flip it around and ask people questions right back. So I don't say, well, I would do this, or you should do this. I flip it around and make them look at the situation from different angles, and or maybe not just different angles, but just maybe in a different way or a different light. And so that's what I'm doing on this segment when we do it on the podcast. So here is the email that I have. I saw my friend's boyfriend on a dating app, and I'm bothered that he's cheating. He didn't recognize me, but he struck up a conversation. I know it's him because I've met him before. My question has two parts. Do I tell him off and say he's a cheating a-hole? And then, what do I tell my friend about this? Okay, so it's a two-parter, everybody. I hope I'll have time to get through this. First off, I've got to say, when it comes to dating apps, I mean, this is a short email, so I don't know the full details. But here's what I would also say, because something similar happened to me. My cousin came to me at a family get-together and said, "Oh, you've been chatting with one of my friends on such and such dating website." And I said, "Oh, okay, how'd that come about?" And I mentioned this on this show as well. And she's like, "Yeah." And then she said the name. And I was like, "I have no idea who that is." "Yeah, you've been chatting, yeah, he's mentioned, your dogs and whatever." And I said, I can guarantee, 100% that that's not me, because I've never been on a dating website before, ever. And I can prove that, one, because I'm married, but two, I guess it's not necessarily proof when I read this email, but at the same time, I'm a media personality, and something that I have always said, even when I was single, was that I'm not going to go on those sites because I would just be not embarrassed, but I just feel that that's not, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be on a dating app and it's like, oh, that's the guy from the 6 o'clock news. Oh, that's the guy, I've always just kind of felt, not to say that it's beneath me, it's just not for me. But when I'm a public figure like that in our daily newspaper here in the city or whatever it is, I wouldn't put my personal life like that out there. So that's kind of my proof is, no, that isn't me. And again, I mean, you've seen the show Catfish, right? What does it take to just somebody creep my page, see my pictures of my dog, know the dog's name, So that's where I would say, first off, make sure that it's actually the guy. Like if it's, it's your friend's boyfriend, whatever, make sure it's actually him, because somebody was using my actual name. We're not even talking like just making up a name, basically pretending to be me. I'm not saying that I'm being well, I guess I was being catfished in the definition of things. So before anybody comes out, swinging and telling me up, because if my husband came and said, blah, blah, I'd say, first of all, check yourself. But, and at least my cousin kind of approached it because she's met him as well, right? Like he's been around the family. And so she kind of just not casually pulled me aside, but brought it up. So I would say to make sure that it's actually him. Now, again, what's my dog's name? Well, again, if you've posted stuff about your dog on social media, anybody knows that answer, right? So, I mean, look, I was on the radio for 300,000 listeners. A few people knew my dog's name at the time. So I would say that. Make sure it's the guy before you come out swinging, right? Do I tell him off and say he's a cheating a-hole? Well, again, I mean, if you're messaging through the app, I mean, or maybe even ask questions about like when your last relationship was, what did they do? How was your, and maybe, compare notes, but I mean, why bother investing the time? I mean, if you're looking just to fuck around and create drama or entertain yourself, okay, fine. But I would just say, ignore the guy, whether it is the right person or not. It's one of two things. He's either a liar or it's somebody who's catfishing. So either way, you're not getting a very good vibe from the overall experience, right? I mean, like, you've already got this guy. I mean, I've sort of put it out there, you're being catfished. I don't know that that's the truth. But either way, if you're not interested because, as you say, he's a cheating a-hole, then just why bother telling him off? What's that going to accomplish? I mean, he might be embarrassed and he might fess up, or it might destroy his relationship. Who knows? But, do you want to be part of that? It also probably depends on how close of a friend you are to your friend, right? Have you known them for a long time? Is this a new friend? I would just look at things like that. And then, so on the flip side of that, what do I tell my friend about this? Again, I mean, it depends on the closeness of your relationship. I mean, there's some friends that I would have no problem saying, calling them up and saying, look, this dude is, or here's the profile, and, here's the link, check it out. Whether you want to do your own little investigation or whatever, but look at, this is out there. And then see, right? I mean, match it up as well. Like, just see, does the physical description, right? If this person says that they're 6'1", and then they're actually, 5'7", or I guess people would lie about that on their social media page or on their dating page anyway. I'm trying to think, like, it depends on the closeness of your friendship. First of all, I would say, say that do I tell him off and say he's a cheating a-hole? No. What do you gain from that? And then secondly, what do I tell my friend about this? That's up to you. That's how close your relationship is. If you, what's the benchmark really, right? Like, would you tell them if there was something major, like where do they fall in your list of, my family member died, and then you're calling around and telling people that? Are they right at the top of the list for being told? Would they just read about it on social media? Like, how close of a friend is this? So, but if they're any true friend, I'm not going to say he's cheating, but I would just forward, hey, I've got something, I was forwarded this, right? What do you. It depends how long they've been together as well. So lots to consider. I mean, you could be devastating your friend. You could be a good friend by revealing it. You could be, breaking up a relationship. Lots to consider. So I don't know how old all of you are. I don't know the length of your friendship. I don't know the length of their relationship. A few more details would have been helpful, but I'll leave it up to you. But as for telling off the cheating a-hole, like, what do you gain from that? Then you're just being another one of those, you're having one of those internet fights. So, listeners, this is where I always open it up to you to see what you think. Do you agree with me? What should this person do? Send me an email, live@jbonair.com.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter at The Scribble Show and at thescribbleshow.com.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. Oh, we got, 30 seconds? Crap. All right, that was fast. I thought I had more time to give you a fond farewell until next week, but I guess not. Send me an email, live@jbonair.com, live@jbonair.com. My name is Jeremy Bradley. Thank you so much for listening, sharing your thoughts, disagreeing with me, agreeing with me, calling me names, whatever you want to do. I will talk to you same time, same place next week. Bye-bye for now.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat,